what was the path of Pan-Europa, or how does it differ from the European movement? From what path did it take versus the European movement, or are they the same? And it is the least visible of the European movement, the European Federalists. You don't really hear of Pan-Europa. So I think on top of that, not only what path did it take, but why this actually you've covered a little bit of why the least visibility, but if you can just explain the path that it did take and its contribution to the Europe of today.
All right. So as I just told you, Richard Knopf-Kalergi retired in 1972. And he chose as a successor the Archduke Otto von Habsburg-Lorraine, whom he had met during the Second World War in Washington, D.C., because Otto von Habsburg was another aide and counselor of President Franklin Roosevelt. He had taken refuge in America because he was a student when the war broke out. He was a student in Berlin, and he was invited by Adolf Hitler to meet with him. And he refused to meet with Hitler and said openly to his friends and maybe to journalists, I think, also, that he would never shake hands with Mr. Hitler. So Hitler tried to catch him and sent his Gestapo behind him, and Otto von Habsburg just managed to go out of Germany through Belgium, and then from Belgium to America. When he took over the Pan-European Union in 1972, after Richard Knopf-Kalergi, he gave another turn, philosophical turn to this think tank. He gave a more Roman Catholic character to it, because he wasn't a Freemason. He was a practicing and believing and faithful Roman Catholic. So he transformed the Pan-European movement into a Roman Catholic one, we must say.
So Pan-Europa has had more of a Catholic, influence along the lines of the Catholic Church, whereas the Federalists and the European movement were probably more mixed between atheists, agnostics, and other faiths.
No, and more Roman Catholic than any other European movement, as far as I know. As far as I know, at least since Otto von Habsburg took over in 1972. You know, his father has just been recognized as a saint by the Roman Catholic Church a couple of years ago.
Really?
Officially. And I can tell you that his mother, the Empress Zita, would visit my great-grandparents in Alsace after the death of her husband, the Emperor Charles. And I remember my grandparents telling me a story of Empress Zita, who was visiting them visiting them in Alsace for Easter one day, and she arrived a couple of days before Easter, and the maid came to my grandmother and said the empress did not sleep in her bed last night. Mother said, what do you mean? No. Nobody touched her bed last night. It's so strange. My grandmother asked the empress when she saw her later that day, she asked the empress, did you sleep well last night? Was your bed comfortable? Were you not too cold in your room? And the empress said to my grandmother, no, I did not sleep in my bed because on the Holy Friday I'm sleeping on the floor. So I slept on the floor. I just slept on the floor, and I've been doing this for years. So these two persons were Otto von Habsburg parents. So you can imagine that he gave a really Roman Catholic turn to his think tank. And when he was elected to the European Parliament, he was elected in this very Catholic political party called CSU, Christian Social Democrats in Germany. And even this Christian political party thought that the pan-European movement was a bit too Roman Catholic for their taste. And I don't know if it's reality or if it's legend, but I've heard this story several times that at one time there were two candidates in this party, members of the Pan-European Union, and the CSU leaders said, no, two would be too much, we want only one of you. So also for this reason, and for another reason, the Pan-European think tank is not so much publicized because, Roman Catholicism is not so politically correct today, especially in countries like France, where you have a law since 1905 separating the state from the church. Everything religious in France is not so popular. For instance, when 10 years ago or more, 12 years ago, it was a question of a European constitution. It was also a question of writing in this project of European constitution the Christian roots of Europe. And it was refused, finally, because President Jacques Chirac, the President of the French Republic, insisted that this be retired from the project. No mention of religion. It's not politically correct in France.